and welcome to Weekends with Whitney. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with us here on the show. And coming up in this morning's show,
meet 3 actors who got so tired of waiting for their big break, they wrote their own movie and they're starring roles.
That they're just not talented, they're tenacious, and we're willing to do anything we have to make something happen. So
how they're turning dreams into reality in Hollywood South. Plus, meet one of Canada's best hunting and fishing guides, his secrets to bringing home the big catch, and the allure for Americans north of the border. Plus, my family's Canadian island, and some of the wild things that have happened here, from my mother nearly eaten by a bear, to dangerous criminals breaking in and taking over.
There was a Molotov cocktail they'd left above the door.
And Dr. Nick on the courage and confidence it takes to follow your deepest dreams and desires.
But first, we have a thriving movie industry here in Hollywood South, but the market is oversaturated with actors and actresses, so getting that big break can be tough. So this morning you're going to meet 3 guys who are taking a risk and putting their dreams into their own hands.
These 3 guys are writing their own destiny. Paul Davis hatched the idea.
We got kind of fed up with waiting for auditions and waiting for, the next call, waiting on our agents to tell us what to do. So we decided to write our own thing.
That thing is a 20-minute short film drama called The Trust Fund. Paul, TC, and Jeff met this summer working as cashiers at a local grocery store.
We all got together. Turned out to be up until 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just talking, coming up with ideas, and then after that, it just kicked off.
They set out to write a short comedy, but it turned into much more.
And we just sat up all night, just brainstorming and doing ideas, and it evolved into something completely different than it ever was at the beginning, which was great.
They'd get off work, start writing, and inevitably see the sun come up day after day.
We pretty much didn't sleep at all. We haven't slept in 2 months actually, but we so we wrote it, and when we were done, we looked at it and we realized that we had something actually pretty good.
TC spent the last 3 years doing improv in Chicago at the famous I.O. That's turned out such stars like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Chris Farley.
I've done a lot of collaborative work, and this is for sure the easiest it's ever been. It's almost like we've gotten to a point so quickly in the past month that it's almost like we're one brain.
Their script, Paul says, breaks the Hollywood trend.
I think we're at a point where people are just willing to sell out, as far as you'll get a lot of explosions, there's a lot of hot chicks, and a lot of really predictable stories.
We've been together for 27 years. Where's my ring? Huh?
They figured out that makes money, and that's what it's all about.
They refused to go that route.
That was the idea originally behind what we're doing, is to bring something refreshing, something that actually has a plot and a story.
Knowing that going into it, we wanted to write something that wasn't predictable and that would really, an audience would leave feeling something.
One person writing a script is hard enough, but 3 writing it, it's rare. There's a theory of the power of 2.
Yeah.
That 2's like the perfect number,
okay.
and 3's a crowd.
I think if this project would have happened in a different way, let's say one person weren't involved, it would have never happened. All 3 people in this group, I say that, maybe I'm the weak link and I just don't know it. If Paul or Jeff were not involved, this project would have never happened.
So
not
now
ever.
It's the power of 3.
I think it is. I think 3 is the new magic number. It's the Trinity, It's us 3 guys.
The 3 shared the script with their mentors and others in the movie business. The feedback blew Jeff away.
This is awesome. And so it really lifted my spirits up, and then hearing from TC and Paul what they had to say about the people they reached out to, it's like, guys, we can make this happen. This is going to be big.
But they needed a producer, so the fearless 3 reached out to all big names.
Landed in the hands of Mr. Hector Toro, who's the local big shot, I guess you could say, as far as producing and post-production, all that stuff goes. And he loved it, and he wanted to make it for us, but he needs a lot of money to do that, so that's where we're at now.
They need $15,000 to make their movie. August 1st, they turned to Indiegogo.com to raise that money. They are halfway there, but they only have 1 week to raise the rest.
We still have a long way to go. And what I think is great is that this is it's quick and easy way for people in Louisiana to be a part of the film industry for like young, aspiring people that want to keep art local and keep it here. You know, as actors, we have such a pull to go to LA, but it's like we can do it here and we can make it happen ourselves. So we're kind of putting our nose to the grindstone and making it happen.
If you'd like something in return for your donation, they have what they call perks. They'll do almost anything, from working at a local charity for you to getting tattoos.
To be honest, we'll do almost anything for money at this point right now. The other day I ate a whole bag of, like a big bag of jelly beans for 20 bucks and I was miserable, but we have 20 bucks now extra to go towards it, so.
Do your parents think you're crazy?
Kind of. They just don't understand like the passion, like the losing sleep over this, you know, but they just don't understand that we love this.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah, but luckily, and I think Jeff and Paul are in the same boat, our family are so supportive of us in every way. They think we're insane, but I think they really believe in us as well, and they're excited to see what comes of this.
This is like the hardest part is the waiting process. We're ready to shoot this, and but it's also a good thing because it helps us prepare more.
Knowing that going into it, we wanted to write something that wasn't predictable and that would really an audience would leave feeling something.
Writing it was really just the first step.
A lot of it's been cast upon us to be like, all right, now you guys have to stay up till 7 o'clock in the morning and figure out these shots and figure out you know, where we can trim the fat on the script or where we can trim the budget to make sure it happens. Very driven to make sure that this is done, not only done, but done the way it deserves to be done, because the script's too good to shortchange, I think.
And that's why we've had such a great opportunity with people here in town. We don't have to move to LA to do all this.
Why should they believe in you three?
I don't know anyone more hardworking than us. You know, we're hungry for it, and hopefully people can relate to that. Hopefully we can inspire people to want to take their step, you know, and to shoot for their dreams.
If you would like to help make their dreams a reality, go to Indiegogo.com and look for the Trust Fund. And still to come on Weekends with Whitney.
Meet a man who's lived almost 50 years on a remote Canadian island miles from the mainland. How he does it and why. And if you had your own private island, would you wait nearly 40 years between visits? Why, my family did, and what brought us back. And Dr. Nick explores what it takes to be a risk taker and the hidden reasons holding some of us back as Weekends with Whitney continues.
Give the gift of fine dining. Wayne Stabler Companies is offering 1 card for 4. Le Creole, The Little Village, Stab Steak and Seafood. 4 sizzling restaurants, 1 card.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. Well, we're familiar with folks coming down to Louisiana for great hunting and fishing. Well, a lot of folks do the same thing in Canada. Right now, you're going to meet a guide for more than 50 years. He has been teaching people to hunt and fish in the great waters and woods of Canada for most of his life. This is the story of Don Sauvé.
Well, now take down your fishing pole and meet me at the fishing hole.
70 miles of pristine water, 14,000 islands, 65,000 miles of shoreline, and millions of fish make up Lake of the Woods off the coast of Kenora in Ontario, Canada. For Don Sauvé, it was love at first sight.
I would say it started by me visiting Kenora when I was just a young guy, 16 years old, and enjoyed fishing here and found the waters really extra special as far as fishing goes, and so I moved here.
He's now one of the top guides in all of Canada with one of the best camps. Welcome to Northwest Outfitters and Outpost. It's Don's private island in the Narrows connecting Lake of the Woods and Shoal Lake.
I like to come out here, and the fishing is great, and it's nice to have your own little island. This is kind of unique, where most of the camps are larger camps, so you have your own cottage and not the whole place to yourself. But this is nice, where it's nice and quiet.
Don has 4 cottages people can rent. He owns 3 of the 30 acres on this island. The Canadian government owns the rest. One of only 2 nearby neighbors, Bradley Bale, says everything went off the market in the 1950s.
The Canadian government decided to make Shoal Lake the sole source water supply for Winnipeg. So that put a moratorium on further development or sale of property in this part of the lake. And that's why you look around, you don't see other camps everywhere.
Wow.
So it's like we got grandfathered into a national forest, basically.
That's one reason their world-class fishing and wildlife thrive.
Woohoo! Oh, we got one. Oh, he's happy.
Northern pike are big, plentiful, and delicious. They're Don's favorite to eat. He's perfected the difficult job of deboning pike. But the favorite to fish for in these waters is muskie. They're so popular here, a 40-foot statue of one is in this Kenora Park. Husky the muskie has even hit the silver screen. Bradley saw his dad reel in this one right off their dock one morning.
Went down, it took him almost an hour to land the fish. It was so big and fought so hard. And he let me crank on it a little bit, which was fun. But it was fun to see him so excited.
To hook a muskie or most fish in these waters, Don uses lures. If he uses live bait, he'll go for leeches. But he's found lures are faster and more efficient.
A lot of big jerk baits and big bucktails, double bucktails, and a little bit at this time of the year, topwater plugs, large plugs, you know, with 3 hooks hanging out of them.
Yeah, some people have seen you and they said it looks like he's going shark fishing.
Yeah, I got a couple of my homemade ones that are a foot long.
When the cold Canadian winter sets in November, the entire 70 miles of lake will freeze up to 40 inches thick. So it's ice fishing then.
Certain times ice fishing can be extremely good because you're stationary, where in summertime it's a little different, but you can have good fishing anytime on Lake of the Woods. You can have a bonanza whether it's in the winter or summer. Fish eat, so just be there in the right time and you're going to catch fish.
Don's a real expert who can tackle just about anything.
If you'd like some more information on all that Don does, go to northwestoutfitters.net. And right now, back to the story of the island in Canada that my family has had since the 1950s, and why it took more than 40 years for my family to go back.
90% of the year, no one is on our island bailiwick, but you can be sure other wildlife is. For those first to arrive on the island in the summer, my Uncle Bradley says anything can and has happened. What do you do with a bear that won't leave? He says anything you can think of.
I know one time your father actually had a chainsaw he was carrying. I think I had an axe, and I'm not sure what Philip had, a hammer or something, and we just kind of made a line. It just kept going toward the bear to get him off the other end of the island.
Then there was the winter that 3 violent criminals on the run broke in and hid out from police here. Bradley's wife Pam says they trashed the place top to bottom.
And we found like stuff with blood on it. So somebody had been shot or stabbed or something, we never knew. There was a Molotov cocktail they'd left above the door, the main door to the cabin. So they were getting ready to like defend themselves if they got caught out here. They had used all the food and cooked in every pot and pan and left it. Didn't, of course, clean anything. So we, of course, walk in 6, 7 months later, you can imagine. Ugh. It was terrible.
I have a feeling it was things like that that kept my mom from coming back for nearly 40 years. When she did come back for the first time 3 summers ago, she was welcomed back by a big black bear. She was alone swimming in the lake. Unknown to her, a bear came swimming for her.
We were all up in the cabin and we looked out that direction, saw something swimming in the water, and it was a big black bear.
And I was going to swim over to the other island, and one of my brothers ran down and said, "Bear, bear." And I looked up, and there was a bear coming from the island across from me.
So we had to come down and yell at your mom to swim back to shore because the bear was coming right for her. So she hasn't ever swum that fast before, or, you know.
In her whole life.
Yeah. See, I didn't know she could swim that fast.
But it wasn't fast enough. The bear was gaining on her.
And then we got a boat out, you know, and kept circling the bear to finally make it turn around and go back over to the other island.
So it might have gotten her.
Oh, it could have.
I did my fastest crawl that I had. And I did more than crawl when I got to land.
There's one thing on Bailiwick you can always count on.
Yeah, there's always some adventure happening for sure.
But there's a bigger reason than bears my mom didn't come back for decades.
I discovered the ocean. I love the ocean. You all love the ocean. That became how we vacationed.
That was your island.
Yes, that was my island.
So 40 years later, she's back for the next generation. Has it been fun to see your grandchildren experience it?
Especially your son, who loves he doesn't have to catch a fish up here to be happy.
Yeah.
He just likes being out in the wilderness. And Lily and Sydney Joy. Oh yeah, they all want to come back.
It is a place that calls you back.
This is a place that's very spiritual. It's a soulful, spiritual vacation.
That's why I came, because I knew any of my family that came, they could know what Bailiwick was.
Bye. Bye, Pat. Well, I wouldn't trade my life for diamonds or jewels. I never was one of those money-hungry fools. Rather have my fiddle and my farming tools. So thank God I'm a country boy. Life ain't nothing but a funny, funny rule. Thank God I'm a country boy. Thank God I'm a country boy. Yeah! Woo!
I don't think it will be another 40 years before we return to Canada, but I do bet you that my mother's going to end up in Florida on the beach before her next trip to Canada. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. Well, what is it that makes some people just fearless and they're ready to be a risk taker and others just hold back from maybe pursuing their dreams? Dr. Nick joins us this morning with more. Great to see you.
Morning, Whitney.
You know
Morning,
what
everyone.
brought this topic, of course, to the forefront is our story on the 3 guys who are doing the movie The Trust Fund.
Fascinating.
Fearless.
Fascinating.
But is that because they're in their 20s?
Part of it, I think, is youth. Part of it is definitely youth. We're going to be, you know, we talked about how as we age, we become a little bit more serious and a little bit less prone to take a risk. But I found it motivating.
Good.
I think whenever you see people decide to leave the shore, to go off into the lake or the ocean and not quite know where they're going, they have a goal.
Yes.
I mean, I think fearlessness, there's something about it that's, to me, almost paradoxical, Whitney. To say someone is fearless doesn't really mean they don't have it. It just means that there's a courage that overtakes it, right? That I just really don't care whether I win or not. And again, I'm not saying that it's apathy, but it's like I'm going for it, and I know that I might bump into a few walls or I might get a few no's, but I'm determined. A lot of words come into play when you think of fearless.
Now let's talk about them because there's 3 of them. And does it help that there's 3? Because each one can say, we can do this. We can, you know, do you need some cheerleaders?
It's an oddity. Usually you think of two.
Yes, the power of two.
The power of two. Sometimes you think three gets in the way, but I'm fascinated again by the fact that it doesn't seem to bother them, that they've got almost a trinity or a triangle. You know, and Jung talked about the square, the four. So I don't think it's a matter of numbers, it's a matter of synergy. Synergy and complementarity. And implicit trust that one knows what they're doing, competence.
You know, I love that they say all anyone can say is no.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes.
I remember reading once that, you know, every no you get means a yes is coming. Do you hear the fearless, you know? And I, as we were talking early in preparation for the show, I was saying that I think you have a fearless streak.
I do. You're right.
And I don't know how you experience it, or if you want to take a moment to describe it for the people. But I really believe that you can become very fearless.
Yes, yes. And sometimes it depends on the circumstances. But I was in an encounter with a
not long. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, can you believe it? I'm going to say that it was probably 7 years ago, Nikki.
But I remember it so well.
Me too, like it was yesterday.
With a biking path or something.
It was about River Road and the new biking path, and I was on, you know, the morning show and talking about how irritating it is that they're on the road and they're not up on the levee because the new levee path had been built. And I'm telling you, they came at me like a pack of wolves.
I mean, the heat that you... But the kitchen never got too hot for you. And that's part of fearlessness.
Yeah.
You stood up to that pack of wolves, with no rage or, you know, I'm going to take you down.
Right. No.
But there was a passion.
And I felt like
there was a conviction.
There was. I felt like I had a really valid point, and that maybe somewhere my ideas and their ideas could meet in the middle, and maybe there could really be some progress. I went to one of their meetings.
I know you
I
did.
jumped into the pack of wolves.
I know you did.
And I say that because they were just very angry. Lovely people, but very angry.
I know you did. But I think the fearlessness, again, of that was what can drive to new understandings. And I mean, what kind of innovative society would America be without fearlessness?
Oh. It's almost what we were born on, right?
Yeah.
They jumped on ships and came over. And
when I think of the airplane and the Wright brothers, you know, I just finished a book about that, the Wright brothers. Fascinating story about just determined, fearless, didn't care, didn't have any money. And I don't think these people do. I think they're raising money. Aren't they doing anything they can to raise money?
From eating jelly beans to pixie sticks to cleaning your closet.
It brings up something that is, again, is of real intrigue to me as a therapist. It is in many ways it's such an antidepressant.
Oh.
It's such an antidepressant to have a project, to have a drive, to have a mission, to have a purpose, to have I don't care how many no's I get, I'm going to keep going until I get the yes. It's really a great motivator. I think it's encouraging to all of us. And remember, we live in a society where we can either put people down or we can lift up.
Right.
By our energy.
That's so true.
By our energy.
That's true. And they're a living example of that type of energy. And, you know, anybody else can be a little part of that project if they want to,
Sure. And maybe the people watching can be thinking of what is it that's keeping them from breaking out into something and saying, I don't care. I'm going to be fearless about it.
That's right. Because and think of what's the worst that could happen. And if you realize you can handle that and that's okay, go for it.
Well said.
Change the world.
Well said, change the world.
It'll change their world anyway.
Fearless.
That's right. Well, stay with us. Much more Weekends with Whitney coming up right after this.
Give the gift of fine dining. Wayne Stabler Companies is offering one card for 4. Le Creole, The Little Village, Stab's Steak and Seafood. 4 sizzling restaurants, 1 card.
Thanks for starting your Sunday with us here on Weekends with Whitney. Don't forget, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or head to my website, weekendswithwhitney.net, if you would like to see more on this or 44 other shows. But this morning we leave you with a last look that is Canada. Its beauty, its brilliancy, and its cooler temperatures. Have a great Sunday.